It's working.
Send me the link as soon as you've got it. Right, we're going live stream.
Live stream.
We're live. Don't say fuck or piss. Don't be rude now. Like, because everything we said before, we can't say live because, you know, we've got to be politically correct now.
Yes.
And we've got to behave ourselves.
Now that we're live on YouTube, we have to be serious. Yes.
We have to be serious now, yeah.
Okay.
You never know who's watching. You know, take our words out of context.
Yeah.
Julie Bindle.
I'm going to send you the link so you can send it out to the millions of people who might be wanting.
The 5 people that might crawl into our mentions.
Okay, 1 second. Here we go.
It'll be the 4 guys that fancy me.
There you go. There's the link.
Fantastic. I've got it.
You got it. So slap that onto YouTube, sorry, Twitter, Facebook, wherever else.
You talk now for a minute, Vicky, because I'm doing.
So you're doing technical stuff. You can't talk and do technical stuff at the same time.
No, I've got to look at the lot.
So yeah, we don't have as many topics this week because it's a shorter week because we're doing it on a Friday instead of a Sunday because Freda's working on Sunday. But we still got some really interesting topics. But the problem with these topics this week is they're all kind of the usual, you know, sex, biology,
sex. We're talking about sex again. Have you
toilet, you know.
Well, I've not had any sex for ages. I mean, it's been 2 weeks now. Sex matters, Vicky. Have you not learned? Sex fucking matters, you know.
Yeah.
It does. I mean, God's sake. If you could think of a bunch of women that sex doesn't matter to more, it would be
sex matters to everybody. I don't care who you are. It matters.
Yeah, it matters to them when they can alienate. Like,
so I'm drinking a nice red tonight. What are you drinking?
Oh shit! Lost my coaster again. I'm drinking lager with Vimto in it. Don't judge.
Cheers. Down the hatch.
So yeah, have we got any viewers yet?
I don't know. You're supposed to be monitoring it, not me.
I'm looking. Wait.
So if is anybody posting questions and things and comments, that's all. Yeah, Freda's going to be answering those because I'm busy watching.
I can't see the live link. Hold on. We're not started yet. If anybody's strayed into this domain,
we have. We just haven't spoken about any topics.
This is our sex chat room. You've just strayed into. Not really. I might get my tits out later. Wait a minute. Oh my god, this is so annoying. Right, go on. Gender nebulous.
Come on, the technology is going to beat us at one.
It's not working, Vicky. I can't see our live stream.
Well, I gave you the link.
Right, let me do something else.
It is working, as far as I can tell it is.
I want to be able to watch it on my iPad. That's what I'm doing. Right.
Yeah, everything says it's going. I'm just not looking at it because I'm...
Okay, let's just carry on. Carry on regardless.
Matter. So anyway, topics. I think today's first topic will be our lovely new Prime Minister, once again.
Rishi on
a little dishy Sunak. So Rishi apparently wants to review the Equality Act.
Yeah. Well, does he? Or does he want to pander to a bunch of, you know, lobbyists?
I think that the latter might be the case.
Yeah.
I think what he's trying to do, God knows why, but he's trying to clarify that sex means biology rather than gender.
So what does that mean in the real world? I mean, if you're going to start, you know, if like the idea of sex as a biological thing goes down to the chromosomal level, so you're going to judge people based on their genetics. Is that what they're saying?
Yeah, but I mean, it's a bit weird because you have to remember that the Equality Act is basically it's an act of Parliament to prevent discrimination against minority groups. So, you know, one of those minorities happens to be anybody who comes under the characteristic of gender reassignment,
right?
You know, trans people. So if they're saying that they want to take away those protections, I mean, what the hell does that mean? Are they saying they want to take away that completely, or are they saying they want to redefine sex so that it prevents what we can currently do as trans people? You know, like, you know, you can use toilets and changing rooms based on the fact that you identify
Mm.
as trans, and it doesn't matter what stage you are in your transition. It can be from the moment you go and see your GP, or it really doesn't matter. So you're protected, from discrimination at that point. So if they take that away, or they try and redefine sex to only mean biological sex, I mean, that is just nonsense. I mean, how would you even police that? I mean, how would you police these spaces?
Well, you see, the problem with this is it affects not just, they always concentrate on trans women in this equation and say like, oh, trans women are men, and men are more likely to abuse women, but they forget about trans men.
And trans men never come into the conversation.
And this affects them, because if you're a trans man and you're going into a female, like, the thing that they always forget is that these single sex spaces in public are not there for safeguarding. They're there for social politeness. They're there for that, if a man wanted to go into one of those spaces, regardless of how they identify, regardless of how they look, they would do it anyway. They're not waiting for any kind of green light. You know what I mean? It's like, so when I'm out on a night out and I go to the toilet, I'm not thinking, oh, am I entering a woman's space? I'm just going where it's natural and socially acceptable for me to be. And those cues don't come from me. They come from the people I'm around. They come from the women that I socialize with. So if I was to go into a men's toilet where there's a bunch of guys pissing against a latrine, they're going to look at me and go, what the fuck are you doing in here?
Yeah. And then what's going to happen in that situation?
And they're going to draw attention. It's drawing unnecessary attention to me.
Yeah. It's going to be embarrassing for them. It's going to be threatening for you. I mean,
and also, like the men that I know and the men that I talk to, they will say like, they talk to me differently to the way they talk to their girlfriends, or they talk to their wives or whatever. So it's not about how you identify. We live in a world of gender, not biology, because that's the social construct we live in. It's a social paradigm we live in. So like when you communicate with somebody, you're not communicating with the sex. It's like you're communicating with what's in front of you and the visual cues you get. And it's not about looks. It's not about whether you wear makeup or not. It's about that there's something more, there's something deeper to it than that. But I know that like when I'm at work, when I'm in social life, the men I know recognize that I'm not one of them. You know what I mean? It's like, it's as simple as that. Because when I did identify as male, I never felt like one of them. And I felt uncomfortable in those situations, like when they were in changing rooms and with men, I'd shy away from that and be private, because I don't want, it's very innate to who we are.
Yeah. Did you see there was a clip from a lady in the States who was in a casino who'd gone into the loo, and she was being harassed by a gender critical woman?
Yeah, I saw that. Yeah.
Did you see that? Yeah. Now, this was a cisgender female that was being harassed by an older woman. And the reason they were being harassed is because they had short hair. They dealt with the situation really well. But it just goes to show you that, there's a cis woman who's being harassed in the ladies' toilet because someone else thinks that they're trans and they think it's appropriate to go and harass them because of this. I mean, that is the kind of problems that, Rishi is going to introduce if he does what he's planning on doing.
Well, it's like this idea that you can tell what somebody is by looking at them. Like, I'm sure, if you're looking for that, if you're somebody that is sat there looking for trans women, if you're looking,
you'd see them everywhere, wouldn't you? If you start thinking, oh, that might be a trans person.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe that's a trans person.
But what I'm getting at is, if you're someone who's specifically looking to alienate somebody because they're trans, that is a problem within you, and it's only going to cause friction. Because like say if I went into a ladies' toilet and there was a woman there who clocked me as trans, the only problem there is the fact that she's trying to intimidate me, and that's the aggression. It's not coming from me, is it? You know what I mean? It's like,
I mean, the fact that you're trans and you're in a toilet and you're just using the facility just like everybody else,
you know,
you're
I'm
not
just
doing
washing my
anything to...
because I'm not going to be in a cubicle, am I? I'm going to be washing my hands or coming out or
You're going
going
to be
in.
using the cubicle. You're going to come out the cubicle. You're going to wash your hands. You're going to dry your hands, and you're going to leave. You might fix your hair, fix your makeup, and then you're going to leave. I mean, that's it. I mean, you're not interacting or doing anything with anybody else. It's like this whole thing is totally ridiculous.
But I'm sometimes ultra conscious now. Like I think I've said this before. Like when I am out in those kind of places where there's not gender neutral toilets and it's very male, female, straight, whatever environment, I am conscious is somebody going to approach me and say something, and that's my paranoia, you know.
But isn't that your fear based on all this stuff that's going on in the press?
Yeah, of course it is, because I second guess myself, and I worry that, I mean, imagine the fear. Imagine you're a trans woman and you're out on a day out, wherever you are, doesn't matter fucking where you are, and you saw Mayor Four-Starter in a toilet. You'd fucking panic yourself to death, wouldn't you? You'd melt down in tears if you saw that.
The other thing that's really kind of alarming is the fact that you see these people saying, "Oh, I'm going to tell," you know, you see this online. You say, "Oh, this woman, she's going to tell her husband, and he's going to be waiting for you outside."
Exactly.
You know, it's like, what the?
But it's like it's the idea of creating and making us into a threat.
Yeah, it's like this manufacturing. Trans people are a threat. Now, what we're supposed to be a threat for, I have no idea. What is the threat? Define the threat.
There's always going to be, like, in a world where you're in public, there's always threats. That, like, I've been in bars and I've been harassed by men who assume me to be,
so not in the toilet.
They assume me to be cis female, so they'll lean over me and talk to me, and I don't welcome that attention, but I deal with it, and then I sometimes think, gosh, you know, like, I do appreciate that world that women live in, because I didn't grow into it. I wasn't socialized into it. So it's kind of like something I've learned. I've had to learn. So on one level, I can understand women on, like,
absolutely.
They've lived in that world all since being girls, whereas I haven't. So when I experience it, it's like, fucking hell, is this what men do? Do you know what I mean? But it's always been there, but I didn't fucking see it. So my female friends will say, fucking hell, yeah, Freda, this is what we have to fucking deal with. And I'm like, yeah.
And that is in the bar. It's not in the toilet.
It's not in the toilet. No, it's in the bar. And it's men putting their hands on you and touching your bum or whatever. And when I complain about that, I'm met with a kind of, well, you know, you're not asking for it. No, I'm not. You know, it's the same misogyny, I suppose. But I can appreciate this idea, because I didn't grow up into that, and it was later on in life that I was experiencing it. That maybe women have more of a story to tell about those kind of abuses, but that doesn't mean as trans women we discount that. What we criticize is this idea that we are the threat. We're not the threat. We become the victim of the threat.
We're accused of being the threat, but we're not actually the threat.
But we don't.
You want to see what the real threat is? It's other people, probably.
Well, the threat is
males who are, you know, behaving in a threatening way. That's the threat.
Well, the threat is male entitlement.
Yeah, misogyny,
and that exists. It's like when I used to listen to my male friends when I was younger talking about their girlfriends or wives. I was like, well, why are you talking about somebody you love in this way? It's like, why you? And I'm like, well, you know, it's like bizarre to me, but because they would think of me as a gay man, and that I wouldn't get it. Do you know what I mean? That was their attitude then. If I was to say, don't talk about women like that, they'd be like, oh, you just you know, just being a fanny.
So for all this, like, toilet and changing room nonsense talk that goes on, I mean, I think what people really need to focus on is, you know, what is the real threat that you're afraid of? And it as far as I'm concerned, it's not coming from trans women. And the other thing that's never spoken about in this situation is trans men. You know, trans men use the men's toilets. You know, what trans men are always accused of are being failed lesbians. You know,
but that's the same misogyny though, isn't it? It's like
it's just in a different form.
yeah, because you can't be like the idea that somebody could identify into being a man. It's like it's not their right to do that because men are this and men are this thing that society portrays a certain way. So I would say if you're going to start criticizing people for how they identify, you have to think about how men identify from the beginning as boys, how men are socialized as boys, because that's where your problem is. It's not women, it's not trans women. It's about the way boys are given that sense of entitlement. It's got nothing to do with anything else.
If you want to talk about threats, let's talk about what the real threats are and what they aren't. I mean, that's the basis of where the argument needs to be, discussed.
But it always comes down to these single sex spaces because
it does, but there's no such thing as safe spaces anyway. I mean, there's no law.
Well, not in a social sense. I mean, like if you like, I've been swimming with my friend, and I always used the female change, but it's like I wouldn't use the men. I wouldn't go in there on my own and use the men's, would I? Because I respect the way men are together, not because I feel like I'm going to get raped. It's nothing to do with that. It's because I respect that male space, and I'm not part of that space because of how I identify or how I.
So it's what you said at the beginning of the conversation. It's to do with respect and traditions, isn't it? It's
a social mores. It's to do with the idea of respecting people's space because they socialize differently. Like if you've ever seen men together in a locker room, like they're just different. It's like I wouldn't be comfortable in that space because there's something they can express freely, which I can't, whereas if I'm in a female space, I mean, it's different. It just feels, I don't know what it is about that. I mean, it's hard to define really, because it's obviously, it's on a sort of nebulous kind of thing, but there's something I wouldn't feel comfortable about going. If I was going into a male changing room, I'd feel very self-conscious.
It's a threatening environment, isn't it? It really is.
It's not that it's threatening. It's just I'd feel self-conscious and I'd feel like I was drawing unnecessary attention to myself.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we always end up talking about toilets.
We do. We always get back to toilets. It always comes down to toilets. I mean, the next topic, Keir Starmer in his Mumsnet interview. Again, it's going to come back down to the toilet thing. I mean, one of the things they were talking about was, safeguarding for kids, puberty blockers, the CAS report.
The CAS report has been
parents.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the anti-trans people keep saying, "Have you read the CAS report? Have you read the CAS report?" As far as I can work out, all the CAS report says is that the failings of Tavistock are to do with, not enough funding, and not enough provision, not enough eye on the ball.
But what about Gillick competence? I mean, they're trying to say that kids shouldn't make any decisions without the parents agreeing. I mean, that's what Starmer said, basically. So does that mean he would like to get rid of Gillick competence? I mean, what about abortion for teenagers? Does that mean they can only have an abortion if they go talk to the parents?
What
if the parents aren't supporting? What if a trans kid's parents are so abusive that the child couldn't tell them?
The way I understand that is if the parents are against something that is definitely in the benefit of the child, and the child with the help of doctors knows what they want, but the parents are for some reason against the positive outcome. There has to be a positive outcome, and if your parents are against the positive outcome, then that's where the Gillick thing comes into play, because obviously with this idea of trans children, it's very vague, and like I said before, there's not enough transparency about that. I'd like to think that if a child approached his parents and said, I'm trans, they would be supported, but we know that they're not in most of the cases. It's they see it as something you can be talked out of. And for some kids, that might be the case. There's some kids that might be just a bit confused about how they feel about themselves. But for other children, they will go along with that. They'll need to go on to a trans pathway, and that is how they find happiness. However you define that, I don't know. It's not for us. It's not really for.
I'm not sure if you listened to the whole interview, but it sounded to me like he was just repeating all the normal gender critical.
Starmer's on the fence.
He's sitting on the fence. He's permanently attached to the middle of the fence.
Starmer's on the fence about Marmite. You know what I mean? He's like, he doesn't say anything that is remotely controversial ever. That's his
totally
job.
Risk averse. He's totally risk averse. He needs to grow up hair.
He's grow up hair. Well, you know what? I look at the Labour Party and I see Rachel Reeve and I see Angela Rayner, and I think get rid of Starmer. We've got two.
Yeah, you could get rid of him.
Powerful women there. Absolutely. And either side of him, and I love those two women. Yeah. I think they're great. Get them in charge.
He's coming out with statements like, you need to modernize the legislation around the GRA. Yeah, we know that. And then he's also saying, but you need to protect, safe spaces and all this stuff. So he's trying to do this balancing act, which is
the whole thing, the whole argument is wrong.
Sitting on the fence.
The whole argument with when it's coming from that kind of protecting women, if you're gonna, it's the wrong framing of the argument, because
he's trying to say something, but he's totally afraid of the consequences of what he wants to say, or maybe he doesn't want to say, or maybe he doesn't really know what he needs to say. He's just totally lost on the topic, really.
Well, I think he's probably taken guidance from certain people who said, "Look,
doesn't want to lose the Labour advantage."
Yeah,
it's
if there's ever been a point where Labour could succeed, it's this. But with Starmer, I think he could. He's the guy that could lose it, because.
Yeah. So if you look at what Labour need to do, in my opinion, they need to come out with a really, clear statement of what is transphobia. And then once they've defined it, hold the Labour Party members, MPs, to that standard.
Yeah.
And kick out the ones that refuse to abide by it.
Rosie Duffield.
Rosie Duffield. They had the same problem with anti-Semitism. They went through that whole anti-Semitism problem, didn't define it. So they're just doing the same thing with this now.
Yeah. I just don't think that Starmer
comparing the two, but it's very similar.
Well, they're not the same, but no. When you're talking about Starmer's woolliness, his wishy-washiness, I would agree. But what I want to see is somebody like Rachel Reeve or Angela Rayner. The only politician I've seen say anything positive about trans people is Nicola Sturgeon.
Nicola Sturgeon, very supportive.
But
comes out with great statements.
She can afford that kind of freedom to say what she wants, because she's not in the Westminster bubble.
Let's move to Scotland, Freda.
Yeah. I do think about it, but I don't know. If there was a general election tomorrow, I would vote Labour.
I would vote Labour,
because I just want to get rid of these people like Suella.
Yeah, my number one priority is get rid of the Tories. Number two priority is try and do it tactically if you can't. If you can, sorry. And then third one is vote for the least worst option. But the primary objective is to get the Tories out and get a better government in.
But
Labour's not perfect.
In a way, do you know these people that put on their Twitter profiles politically homeless? I
don't understand that, because then they don't vote.
But then I'm feeling like, if the systems that work that work in our favor can be upturned by some, I don't feel like that. I feel like everything is pretty much mediocre. And I've got to the point where I want Mick Lynch to lead the Labour Party.
Please, please.
As an NHS worker, as somebody that's been polled for striking this week, I'm thinking, do you know what I mean? We don't strike because we want more money. We don't strike because we want more of anything for ourselves. We realize that we want better for everybody.
Yeah, Mick Lynch, perfect. I think he did a really powerful speech recently. I'm not sure where it was, but it was about the current situation with the rail strikes. And if we could find someone, trans who could speak in that way with that power, that's what we need.
You're talking about me, aren't you?
I'm talking about you, Freda. Come on.
I mean, if I honestly, my Twitter history would do me in. If I went for any sort
it's not getting any better doing these.
If I went for any sort of professional kind of political office, somebody would be raking through my tweets. I'm a horror, but no. But besides that, I just think somebody like Mick Lynch would say, "What the fuck are you on about, trans people? Let them get on with it. I don't give a shit about that." And that's the attitude we actually need. We need somebody to say, "Look,
Mick Lynch say, what's the fucking problem? Just get on with it." We
need somebody that's going to say, "Look, can we do a risk assessment?" And when you do that, you're going to say, "Oh yeah, it's not. Just give them, give them the hormones. Fine, we'll be fine."
Yeah.
As long as the bins get emptied, the schools are all right, and the NHS works, I don't really give a fuck about.
And people get a decent wage. That's all we care about.
I don't need to see fucking Suella Braverman landing in a Chinook.
I don't want to talk about her.
And I don't want to talk about this bullshit thing with Matt Hancock going into.
Did you see her in that freaking helicopter? Like she goes on a 20-mile journey. She has to go in a freaking helicopter.
It's all.
What is wrong with that woman?
It's just like, oh yeah, it's all. Well, we live in a sort of optics world now.
Yeah, but so how much does that cost?
I don't care.
A helicopter 20 miles. That's cost thousands. Just get in a blooming taxi. Goodness sake.
Get yourself an Uber, love.
Yeah, get an Uber.
I'll be flying in on a Chinook helicopter to your house.
She's I don't know, she's pretending to be this amazing, great person. She has to arrive in a helicopter. It's oh God. It's like Thatcher when she used to drive around in that tank with the silly costume on. You remember that?
Well, that's what Liz Truss was trying to do.
Yeah, Liz Truss tried to do the same thing. It's like, look how
it's LARPing.
Oh God.
We got, are we? Anyway, I feel like we're in a sort of 3-ring circus of nonsense. Like if I could vote now, I'd vote Jeremy Corbyn back to be Labour.
Anybody except the Tories. It's acceptable at this point.
They still think about him, though, don't they? The Labour Party. They still dwell on that.
Well, he's still kind of, shown as he was too far left. He's too much of a lefty, And now you've got the fence sitter, and then you've got Mick Lynch. You've got like 3 different varieties of the Labour Party there. I mean, but all we want to do is get the Tories out.
Well, I mean, it's so embedded into the political landscape now, Brexit and all that. Since Brexit, everything's gone upside down, hasn't it? Because you've got these people that just, if you look on Twitter, the amount of kind of right-wing rhetoric that is accepted as normal because of it, getting our country back, white, it goes back to the rhetoric of the NF, and BNP and people you thought would be discredited by now. But this has become like the mainstream opinion on immigrants.
Yeah.
Demonizing people. It's the same mechanism at work that demonizes us. I mean, it's different. It's a different story, but it's the same kind of fear mongering.
It's like they always need to find a minority that can be their enemy.
Can we talk about this Equality Act to make sex characteristic biological sex?
Well, I mean, I was about to go on to the next topic, which was sex matters, and they've been going on about biological sex. So.
You know what?
They've got this petition going, haven't they? And I think it's up to 24,000 to, change the definitions of sex. It's a similar thing as what we were just talking about with Starmer and Rishi. It's all kind of around this, what is the definition of sex and how does it apply to the Equality Act? And go on, carry on. Sorry,
Well,
interrupted.
if you're going to start defining people by their sexual characteristics, if you're going to start making that the main way in society that you divide people, how far does it go? Does it go to the chromosomal level? Does it go to the DNA level? Because that's not how we exist in the real world as people. It's not how we socialize. It's not how we communicate with each other. You know what I mean? We don't look at somebody and go, what
So
genitals?
what you're trying to say is you're not just a pile of chromosomes and genes walking around.
Yeah.
You're actually a human being with feelings.
Yeah, that's it. See.
Yeah.
But you see, when the whole thing, sex matters. What they mean is gender doesn't matter. That's what the code is there. It's not about sex mattering. It's about
they're trying to say that this petition that's reached 24,000 is the greatest petition that ever lived. I mean, we've seen other petitions that have gone to 100,000, 200,000 in less time than this. So it's just like they're just trying to spin another bullshit story around how wonderful they are, and God.
What they want to do is
need another drink.
They need to wait.
Rant tonight.
All their arguments are performative arguments. They're like, they have to demonize somebody. Like if the argument is about, like, imagine it was a philosophical argument about what is a woman, what is a man, what is a trans woman, what is a trans man. We can have those kind of conversations about what it is that makes us human beings and what, but they don't want to have that conversation. That's off the table for them. What they want to say is they're very dogmatic and they're very purist about what is a woman, right, and what is a man. So fair enough, if they want to have that opinion, nobody's stopping them having that opinion. But when they try to influence society, they're going to run into a lot of difficulties because we don't communicate in that way, do we? Like, we don't look at somebody and look them up and down and figure out what's
your biology.
We go off very specific visual cues and discriminatory probably cues, and we look at people as once we start talking, when somebody starts talking to me, they identify me as the person I am. They don't go, have you got a penis? I mean some men do, to be fair. But they're the kind of men that watch chicks with dicks porn, you know what I mean? But sometimes men will talk to me. Like, I'll give you an example of this. Like, I'm in a conversation with somebody, and if I get to know somebody, I'll disclose, I'm trans woman, but it doesn't change the conversation. It doesn't change the way they see me as a person. So what are they dictating to people? Are they saying, right, suddenly you've got to think of me as a man because we've decided I'm not, that trans is not a thing?
Well, they're just fixated on biology, biological kind of. They can't get beyond that thing.
Yeah, but it's like this. Like, the way I think of it is
like the biological essentialists, aren't they? That's what I'm talking about.
I didn't invent what it means to look like a female or what it looks like to be a girl or these are things we all grew up with, and it's been in part of our cultures for centuries. So we do adopt visual signifiers that tell the world who we are. So yeah, I could shave my head, I could not wear makeup, get rid of my eyebrows, but I'll still be the same person. It's still the same personality.
Yeah. So
it's how people react to that that's important to me. It's got nothing to do with like whether the government gives me a GRA certificate or what my passport says. It's to do with how I relate to people and sexually, as that's part of it. Because like when I used to identify as male, the men that I liked never liked me because they don't want a little gay boy. You know what I mean? I wanted men that wanted me as Freda.
Yeah.
For whatever that means, I know that's a very flimsy definition, but whatever it is, I fancy that.
Yeah, but I mean, that's how you define yourself. I mean, that's important, surely.
But it's important because it's not all about sexual attraction, because you could be completely celibate or asexual and still express gender in a way. But
yeah, I mean, you don't have to mix your definition of who you are with sexuality. I mean, sexuality, gender identity are kind of two separate things, but they work together, don't they?
But I'm always conscious of saying to, like if somebody says to me, well, what is a woman? I'll say, well, what do you want a woman to be? Like what
does it mean? What does it mean to you?
Yeah, and what is a human being? Like what word? Because we don't invent these ideas on our own heads. We learn them, and we learn to navigate social situations and social anxieties, and mental health is with the way we feel about ourselves and all that. It's not as simple as me like suddenly waking up one day and deciding I'm Freda. It existed in me somewhere from the day I was born. And it just took a long time or longer for some people. Some people realize it sooner, but it's just part of how we express ourselves. Obviously, the way I look and the way I put myself together is, a choice that I make.
Mm-hmm.
Because because when I was young, I'd look at certain women. I think I want to look like, oh, she's beautiful. I want to look like her. She's powerful. I'm inspired by her. You know what I mean? It's as simple as that to me. Yeah. It's not like I'm not stealing a woman's identity.
Woman
the
face.
way TERFs talk about it, it's like, oh, you're wearing this woman face you're stealing our idea of what it is to be a woman. But where do if I was a cis woman, where would I get my idea of how to be a woman?
Yeah, exactly. So
where did you get your idea, Vicky?
To be a woman.
Yeah,
I got it from Sainsbury's. Still a special offer.
Yeah, TK Maxx. Well, you know what? I think I'm wearing my, it's t-shirt day today, so you've got to wear a band.
Well, I'm sorry, I'm not wearing a t-shirt. I'm wearing a thing.
I'm wearing my Emperor t-shirt.
Wearing a cardigan and a thing. Yeah, anyway.
So I identify.
What kind of t-shirt is that?
Emperor.
Oh.
They're a black metal band. But they see, that's the kind of world I grew up in. That's like kind of metal, gothy, kind of mixing looks and looking all weird, because it was a way to express something different, about yourself. I suppose I did it because, when I was younger, I was attracted to those kind of subcultures because it was a way I could express something about myself that I couldn't any other way.
Did you want to talk about the Trump?
Oh my God. Yeah, it's the midterm.
I know you did mention you wanted to say something about
I did want to say something about this because it's like the midterm elections now, and it's like fucking like Trump has thrown it. I don't know if he's officially.
Yeah, I've just looked at the news. He's thrown his hat in. I think after the midterm elections, he's going to try for the next US election.
This is just going to embolden all those same right wingers,
Yep.
And
I don't really see a strong Democrat coming through other than what we've already got.
I don't know what, Joe Biden.
Is Joe going to do another term? Is he too old now? I don't know. But is there somebody else?
I look at Joe Biden, I think, you know what, he's just reading a script, and he's just going through the motions. How old is he? 80?
Comes across as a nice guy, but he's probably too old now, I think.
He is.
Need somebody a bit younger.
It's very depressing, isn't it?
It is.
The media, the in this country and in America. Like,
yeah,
I used to think there'd be people clamoring for those kind of jobs, it would do some good, but it seems to, the way the political system is set up, the people that do want to, like, do you remember what's it called, Bernie Sanders?
Bernie Sanders, yeah.
It was the same thing in this country. I mean, like the way the media assassinate Jeremy Corbyn.
Yeah, they assassinated Bernie the same way.
Yeah, but Bernie being Jewish, you see, they couldn't assassinate him in the same way. But it's like there are people in America that would rather have voted for Trump than, because there was a point where they actually feared so much that Bernie Sanders could get elected that those people would back Trump rather than a serious candidate, because the idea of real social change, like there was like a groundswell after. Do you remember the Occupy movement?
Yeah.
There was a real sense that something was going to change. It was like an uprising, but it dissipated. And I don't know why. I don't know why that happened, because it did happen in this country as well. And that they were the people that supported Corbyn, I think. The left that supported Corbyn that have now been demonized as a liberal lefty wokists.
Yes.
No. But they were the people that were pointing out the flaws in the economic system. The idea of bailing out bankers and how much that cost. But it kind of pales into insignificance now when you think about the cost of COVID.
But there's a real danger that Trump could get in again.
I mean, I don't know.
Unless someone emerges on the Democratic side.
My fear is
see how it can go any other way at the moment.
You see, the problem is there are people in the media that know they can make a lot of money out of the fact that Trump would get elected, because he's like a gift that keeps on giving. When Trump says something, it's like front page news. It's like this constant cycle. Whereas Biden is more laid back. He just gets on with stuff. He maybe gets other people to get on with stuff.
But I mean, at the same time, he's also a bit powerless, isn't he? Because he's not. He's not in control completely of all states, so he can only do what he can do.
Yeah, it's
the Supreme Court of US is under Republicans. It's very difficult for him to do anything.
See, I would like to see a situation where the UK gets a say in American politics, because it affects us
as long
so
as the
much.
Americans don't get to say anything about ours.
Yeah. We're like the 52nd state.
52nd state, I think, yeah.
But
and then what about Elon Musk? What about Elon Musk and all this Twitter nonsense that's going on?
Yeah.
Apparently today he's firing 8,000 Twitter employees.
Which begs the question, what the fuck did they do anyway? Are these the people that check my tweets when I say...
These are the people that check your tweets. Make sure your tweets actually get tweeted.
I tell you what, I'm all for right, a Twitter where anybody can say anything, right? You stand by what you say. You use your real name, but you can say anything you want, but you can't be anonymous. You've got to...
I think, not being anonymous is probably a good thing. But
I don't know how you would do that, but you can't have... Those are the two things. You can't have complete free speech and anonymity. Did I say that right? You can't have free speech and anonymity going side by side. They don't work. You can have free speech.
You've got to be accountable for what you say.
If you're accountable for what you say, fine. If you want to say the N-word 5,000 times, you do that, and then we'll pull you up on
for it.
And if you want to say trans women and men, great. You get on with that, but you do it in your own name. You do it on your own time.
Yeah.
And I have the similar power to call them a fucking dickhead. That's free speech, right?
Goes both ways.
But like I said before, we don't live in a world of free speech. We live in a world of amplified speech. So some people have higher platforms from which to throw bigger rocks, and those rocks land in Twitter sea and cause bigger waves. And we end up fucking drowning them and arguing with people that have got 15 million followers. And we just end up looking like cunts, basically. Sorry.
Yeah. So, you can probably, guarantee that Trump is going to be back on Twitter at some point.
I don't mind if Trump's back on Twitter.
No, but it's going to happen.
What I think is, if imagine if it was a level playing field, like if I had as many, if I could reach as many people as somebody like Katy Perry, imagine that would be free speech. But we don't live in that world. We live in a world where somebody who's telling the fucking truth has 500 followers, right? And
I thought you had 1,000.
Whatever. I'm not talking about me. I just talk crap. Whenever I get more followers, my update is please don't believe a word I say. don't put any credence into any of my words.
Don't listen to her. She's mad.
Because but I obviously, yeah, I'm a bit irreverent, and I do make some kind of mad. I joke about myself a bit, and like I sometimes worry that maybe that reflects
That's
badly.
a good quality, Freda. That's a good.
But
quality.
I don't represent anything but my pissed up brain as it is at that time when I tweet at 11 o'clock at night when I've, that's my free speech. I reserve the right to be a dickhead.
You're doing a show, aren't you? Another one coming up. Let's talk about that.
Being a dickhead.
No, another show. You've got a show coming up.
Oh, I'm doing a live
gig.
Word performance. Yeah.
Yeah. Where is it this time?
It's at the Pier Hat in Manchester on the 11th.
On the 11th of November.
Yeah. So if you want to come down and let me shout things at you,
I was going to come. I was going to come and do some videoing for you, but I hear you've bought a megaphone.
Yeah, I have. Do you want me to get it?
So do you know what you're going to do yet? Is it going to be a?
Oh, good. Well, I've got a few ideas.
You've got a megaphone. You're going to be on the stage, and you're going to have some kind of backing track, right? That's my kind of vision of what you're going to be doing.
The night is, it's like an abstract noise art kind of thing. So I'm going to go full on with the megaphone. Yeah. I think the idea of the night is you get a group of people and you can see how many you can make leave the room. That's you don't have to pay to get in, you have to pay to get out.
So is this in the Northern Quarter?
Yeah.
I'll be there. I'll come along.
My friend Amy runs it, and she's like, she loves anything noisy and abstract. But see, I'm just going to do my usual spoken word thing, but just do it louder.
With a megaphone.
Yeah.
So what are you going to do? You're going to do the transgender lesbian sperm producing female?
Transgender lesbian sperm producing female. Yeah, I'm going to do that.
Really good one.
And I've got an idea for something else, actually. But anyway, enough about me. What are you up to, Vicky?
This weekend? Not a lot, actually. I'm doing a podcast today.
Is that it?
Got some firework thing to go to on Sunday at my sister's house. Tomorrow, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm probably just going to be, chilling out, doing my things.
We need to plan some direct action, don't we?
Direct action.
We need to protest freedom for all trans women.
Yeah, we've not explored your list of ideas yet. There was one I suggested that you put on there this week. Do you remember that one?
What was that one?
I'd have to look now, but I sent you.
Well, I still want to do my Bluetooth speaker thing where I just broadcast the sound of laughter at people in positions of power.
Of laughter.
Yeah, I want to do that, but I've not got around to it yet. This is it, you see. When you do a full-time job, it's really hard to do anything else.
Yeah, it's finding the time. And whatever you do as direct action, it has to be carefully considered, so you're not disrupting like vulnerable people. That's my kind of red line with it.
I just like to. I think being present in protest is enough sometimes. Like there are people I know that are closer to the issue than I am. So if I can be present in that moment, like not create the protest, not try and own the protest in any way, just like because obviously I know people that do that. I'm a bit of an outsider to that world of protest, so I just I'm happy to just be a part of it. But because of the way my mind works, I'm always like trying to think of these ideas of famous person. I can't remember who it was now. Famous person once said, "The future belongs to those who turn up, but it belongs to those who can afford the day off." Let's face it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that too.
So if you can just be at something, that is enough, and that is an effort in itself.
I mean, but I think
people,
we all do what we can anyway, don't we? I mean, we're doing this, other people do different things, and it all helps.
I just
what I worry about is, how all this stuff we're talking about affects other people's mental health, because we're going through a really shitty time at the moment with all this stuff in the UK. And I'm very conscious of it, how it's affecting my friends, how it's affecting people I know.
Mm.
So I don't really know how to address that.
Well, as individuals, it's really hard, but
I mean, we try and help each other. We make sure each other's okay. Reach out.
Yeah.
But
But just being a voice, like I'm always conscious of the fact I'm really gobby, like I'm always on Twitter and I'm always saying something and I'm probably wrong half the time. But it's just that if somebody can relate to something that is said, because the people I follow on Twitter, I follow them because they add something of value to the world. They're like people that follow like Mallory Moore, like Katie Montgomery, and and Gemma. They are contributing something positive to that world in which I live. Some of the news is shit. Some of the things you have to read are horrific, but it's all coming from a kind of place of wanting to make things just a little bit better. Maybe, you can't, an individual might feel powerless, but like I've always thought that I listen to the radio a lot. I listen to voices on the radio and I listen to people ringing in late night phone-ins, and those people's voices, that just random people ringing up and telling their stories. I get so much from that because that's the reality of the world, not the news cycle, not what Helen Joyce or Julie Bindel want the news cycle to be. Those are the people that have a real story.
The stuff you do, I mean, your kind of, the artist stuff you do and these performances you do, I mean, that's great because it's, that's you expressing yourself and people enjoy it and it's a positive thing.
I think I sometimes question why I do it.
No, but it's good to do those things. I mean, I couldn't do it because it's just way out of my comfort zone.
I think it's kind of like I want to make a break in the space-time continuum in a tiny way where I do something, that is, I don't want anybody, you don't have to understand what I'm doing. You just have to be present in it. And it can be mad. It can be like soy machines, techno, whatever. But it just breaks that cycle of bullshit, that we find ourselves in. And it's like, a crack in the cloud. That's it. Yeah. That's all you do, really. If people like it, great. That's it.
Yeah, I mean, the reaction to it was really positive. So yeah.
So you're going to come next week?
I'll be there.
Hopefully, other people will be there.
Camera woman, Vicky.
Have we covered topics? Have we covered all the topics?
Did we talk about trans in the city?
No, we didn't.
Oh, right. So we always end on a positive. Trans in the City event coming up on the 14th of November in London. Tickets are still available, I believe. So this is, I think we've mentioned this on the last podcast, but I'm mentioning it again because it's really important. There's going to be lots of workshops and talks going on. It's an all-day event. There's a gala evening event and some awards being given out to various different categories of people being supportive, etc. And the interesting thing is that they've just signed up for a 3-year media partnership with Pink News.
Oh, that's good.
So that's really exciting because I'm not sure how it's going to work, but if these two organizations work together, I mean, that's not going to be a bad thing, is it? It's all positive.
No, I mean,
I'm looking forward to that. I'll be going. I know you're.
Hopefully, it gets more media attention than Pink News. I mean, kind of feels like we live in a bit of a bubble sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, it's all we have really is Pink News and Vice.
Yeah, Vice are good. But
Trans in the City kind of covers all the corporate stuff, the business world. Trans inclusion in business. I mean, that's for me, that's really important because I work in that kind of a large company, and my company's going to the event. They've put some money into it, so that's good. The more we can do like that, and show that these companies do employ trans, non-binary people, LGBT people, and they prosper and are successful in those businesses. That's all positive information and news that people need to hear because we're just normal people living normal lives, and we need
Well,
to.
that's it. I mean, like that's part of my motivation for talking to people and like getting into media channels and talking on the radio is because, like, I'm not exceptional. I'm just getting on with my life, and I want other trans people to maybe notice that and think, you're not weird. You're not unusual necessarily.
Well, you are, but
I mean, you're special. But what I mean is like it's not. We just need to be a voice that is saying, look, you just get on. No, just get on with your life. You don't. You know what I mean? It's not a big deal.
Get on with your life because you're valued and you're you're part of society, and
you can be supported by an employer.
Yeah,
that's important. I think
is.
That's
just normal people living normal lives. All these idiots trying to suppress us need to do one.
Well, this is the problem with the media with trans and trans topics. We're either demons or with some kind of exotic kind of chicks with dicks. I don't know. Whatever it is, I mean, I can be.
Sorry,
I'm just a boring.
I'm just a boring.
I can do that. I can
goes to work.
Whatever, do some porn. You know what I mean? Nothing wrong with that. But but yeah. This is the fit that. So the worst nightmare for somebody like J.K. Rowling or the witch lady. We don't.
Yeah, as a successful trans person.
It's just somebody that's getting on with life and
getting on with life and has a job,
having a normal life.
Everything's normal and fine, and that's like, oh, that's not allowed.
But you see,
it's like I've been seeing some articles about what the Church of England is. They're kind of having this internal struggle around. Oh, when are we going to allow same-sex couples to get married and all this stuff? I think, for goodness sake, it's such a simple thing. Just allow it. Why do you have to spend months discussing it and having meetings and bishops this and bishops that? Just get on with it. Just allow people to do what they want to do. It's just a same-sex marriage. So what? Who gives a damn?
Well, they're in a weird situation because
it has to control people's lives like this. It's like just F off.
You're going to end up with a schism because some of the really powerful people on the Christian right are very much against. So you've got a schism within the Catholic Church, the Christian, Church of England, and all this. What we're going to do about that? Because if you believe in God and you believe in the literal truth of the Bible, it's not anything.
I need a drink after you said that.
You know what I mean? You can't legislate on those grounds, can you? But they'll try.
But can you imagine if I went round?
What's that Miriam Cates woman?
No, but imagine if I went round saying things like, "Oh yeah, okay, so cisgender people, you're not allowed to get married. You're not allowed to get married in my church." What would happen? What would happen then?
Well, you'd have to start your own church.
But who am I to even say such a thing? It's like, who? But yeah, they can prevent me from doing a same-sex marriage.
Well, the thing is that I know a bit. My mum goes to church, and it's like, but they're not judgmental people. They're not those kind of evangelical right wingers. My mum plays fucking bingo at church. You know what I mean? She, it's not.
I mean, it depends on the church, obviously, but it's just that the Church of England hierarchy, the bishops, are all having this debate around. Oh, it's so annoying. It's just it's such a simple thing.
But it's been
so quickly and easily. Just do it.
It's been a part of the church for so long that homosexuality is wrong, and also enjoying yourself is wrong. having sex for pleasure is wrong.
Everything's
wrong.
Everything
that's fun is wrong.
All you're allowed to do is go to church, sit in the pew, sing songs, eat some bread, drink some wine. That's all they're allowed to do.
Yeah. See, when I'm in church with Mum, I'm WhatsApping you.
You realise you're going to go straight to hell.
Yeah.
Or WhatsApping a trans woman whilst you're in church, right?
But on the other hand, I really hate. You know what I really hate? These sort of, bro atheists. These kind of like atheist guys, like that read Richard Dawkins. I'm like, fuck off. Let people. But if people want to believe something, let them get on with it. Do you know what I mean? It's like they've made a career out of atheism. I think it goes back to Christopher Hitchens. who I used to actually really like, Chris Richards, because he was quite a good social commentator. But out of that has grown this kind of weird, I don't know, it's a kind of very judgmental kind of atheism where, it's all about that. This is where the anti-trans thing comes into it with them, because they're like, oh, it's all about science. We're like materialistic, and it's all about the nature of reality. I was like, well, yeah, whatever, but maybe
I'm not really familiar with this. It's kind of like a brand of atheism that
it's
also
just
kind of.
It's kind of the Jordan Peterson wing of atheism.
Right, yeah,
it's like, if Aboriginal people want to believe in Dreamtime, leave them alone. Let them get on with it. You're not better than them. Just because you think you're on the side of science. But
people are free to believe whatever they want when it comes to religions. I mean, just don't try to oppress me.
Well, that's
with your religion. If I'm part of your religion, if I'm born into being Church of England or whatever,
well,
I want to be part of society, surely I'm allowed to get married in church, even though I'm trans.
But what I'm saying is, there's a horseshoe, isn't there? There's the radical religious people kind of meet the radical atheists somewhere here, and it is in that Richard Dawkins world, and I just reject that altogether. It's just Richard Dawkins to me. Did you ever watch Bagpuss?
Yeah,
he's like Professor Yaffle. You know what I mean? Because the mice on the mouse organ have got all these mad ideas, and that's rubbish. That because science. I was like, shut up and let them get on with it. Let them enjoy their little fantasy. You know what I mean? It's not hurting anyone, is it? But yeah, on a realistic level, like it's like the when they talk about biological reality and chromosomes and gametes, and that's what defines what a man or a woman is. We know that isn't the case. We just know, and I don't know.
It's kind of irrelevant. It's kind of irrelevant.
Imagine a world where I could go and genetically modify my chromosome to be XX. Would that change anything? Would that change?
This is what I'm saying. It's not. It's irrelevant.
It's
irrelevant.
Are we just all flesh bags wandering, like wreckage of flesh, wandering towards the abyss? I like to think so.
I think
that's the end, isn't it? I think I've just killed the podcast.
You think you have? I was just going to say, are these the kind of thoughts you have when you're in church?
Yeah, definitely.
Like the end, the abyss.
These are the kind of thoughts that stop me sleeping.
The flames start rising.
Yeah, these are the kind of thoughts that go around in my head like the magic roundabout. Are you a real person, Freda? Are you a woman? Are you a man? Fuck off. Keep taking the mood stabilizers and microdosing acid. Not that I do that.
No, of course you wouldn't.
That's an example.
You're a very respectable person.
I sometimes talk to Vlad, who is my oracle.
Is Vlad detachable from his stand there, or is he interwoven into the?
He's screwed on.
He's screwed
like me to this chair.
I was just wondering if you could bring him closer to the camera so we could get a good look at him.
Wait a minute. No.
Don't destroy anything.
No.
Yeah. Okay. So he's fixed in there, isn't he?
I'm sure there was other things I wanted to talk about.
Well, I've gone through the list, Freda. I mean, that's the full list. There's nothing left. Here's the list. This
is what we do. We just talk complete nonsense for an hour or so, and we have some news items we try and thread together so it looks like we know what we're talking about.
I'll tell you about the red card, yellow card system.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so the yellow card system is Freda, shut the fuck up because I need to say something. And the red card is when you've done something really bad, or you said something you shouldn't have. Now, I've not deployed either of these today, you've noticed.
So is that when I've sort of libeled?
Actually, they match the background. Look.
Libeled somebody. Or...
Yeah, that's for you may have libeled somebody, and that's like, shut up, I need to say something. But I've not deployed them, so you must have been good today.
Right. I've got nothing else to add to that. Unless you've got anything else you want to say. We've got a few viewers. We've got 8
Do we?
people. 8 people watching us.
8 people watching. Oh my word. Hello.
My God, we're taking over
Hello.
the
I
world.
hope you liked the craziness and the abstract nonsense that we talk about. But yeah, please like, please subscribe.
Don't forget to subscribe.
This will be coming out on the Gender Nebulas podcast too, when I've actually got around to doing it, which will probably be tomorrow because it's quite late today.
That's me signing out.
Yeah. So I think I'm going to sign us off there, Freda. What do you think?
Okay. Thank you for another illuminating conversation. I'm not sure what any of it meant, but you know.
It was good. We had a good conversation. How do we end this YouTube thing? Which button do I press? Hang on.
I press that button.
Oh,
there,
stop the live stream.
That,
Okay.
that
So
button there. That button.
Yeah.
That button.
Yeah. Let's say our goodbyes to YouTube. Don't close the call, Freda, because we've not finished the podcast, but we're saying goodbye to YouTube. Okay.
Okay. Bye. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
Sorry. Really sorry.
Yeah, we apologize for everything.
Sorry. It was